Welcome to your extraordinary success. Every decision creates your success.
We spend a lot of time waiting for the right moment to fix our lives. We tell ourselves we'll start when the economy improves, when work calms down, or when we finally feel motivated. We tend to picture personal change as a dramatic awakening. We expect to wake up one morning with unwavering confidence, or we look for a sudden burst of inspiration to carry us across the finish line. But life rarely cooperates with that timeline. This graph maps out the valley of disappointment. It plots the amount of effort you put into a new habit against the visible results you actually see. For a long time, you put in the work, reading, saving, exercising, and nothing appears to change. The gap between effort and reward feels massive. Without immediate feedback, people conclude the process isn't working, and the effort stops entirely. Surrendering at this point suggests that the effort was driven by the expectation of an immediate prize. When the world doesn't provide it, the motivation to continue disappears because the drive was tied to the feedback, not the process itself. My early life in El Salvador provided very little reason to believe the future was flexible. We lived in poverty so deep that survival was the only metric. Success wasn't a conversation, it was a luxury we couldn't afford. Then civil war arrived. Normal life collapsed, and violence became a routine part of the day. Opportunities didn't just shrink, they disappeared entirely beneath a blanket of uncertainty. When I eventually fled to North America, I had no education, I possessed no money, and no influential connections. I worked the jobs most people ignore, washing dishes and parking cars, just to secure a single step forward. In that position, the temptation to embrace victimhood is powerful. The world truly is unfair, and identifying that unfairness can be used as a shield. If the system is entirely responsible for your suffering, then you owe the world nothing. But there is a critical distinction between fault and responsibility. You are not at fault for the poverty or the trauma you inherited, but you remain entirely responsible for deciding what those hardships will mean for your future. Reclaiming your future begins with a change in language. Listen to how people describe their problems. It usually sounds like, "I can't because of my parents," or "I can't because of the system." The moment you replace "I can't" with "how can I," you force your brain to stop defending the failure and start mapping out a solution. Because I lacked a formal education, I started asking how I could acquire one anyway. I walked into public libraries and treated them like a university. I spent thousands of hours studying financial statements and business history without a professor or a curriculum. When you shut your internal dialogue, you stop taking inventory of the resources you lack and start maximizing the choices you actually control. Every action you take earns interest, whether positive or negative. Just like money, human behavior multiplies rather than adds over time. In isolation, one small decision appears insignificant. Reading 10 pages of a book tonight, or saving $20, feels like a single drop of water hitting a solid stone face. Nothing appears to change. But repetition produces a shift that force alone cannot. It is the cumulative weight of those drops, not the force of any single one, that eventually reshapes the rock and carves a canyon. We look at successful people and assume they possess some hidden genius. In reality, they usually possess ordinary habits executed with relentless consistency, long after the initial excitement has faded. Every micro-action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Over a long enough timeline, consistency will always defeat brief periods of high intensity. Most people spend their lives trying to become more motivated, but motivation is an emotional state. It is guaranteed to vanish when you feel tired, stressed, or discouraged. This diagram illustrates why relying on willpower fails. On the left is a willpower loop, powered by a battery. On the right is a system loop, a continuous gear mechanism. A system is a process designed to produce results regardless of how you happen to feel. Every choice you make drains mental energy. Eventually, you experience decision fatigue. Look at the willpower loop. As choices pile up, the battery dies and the process breaks down. But the system loop bypasses those decision nodes entirely. By automating the correct choices, like an automatic transfer, the process runs unimpeded. Highly disciplined people aren't working harder to resist temptation. They have engineered an environment where success requires less effort than failure. The mechanics of change are straightforward. Taking ownership of your situation starts the engine. Small habits maintain the momentum, and automated systems protect those gains when things get difficult. You do not need to overhaul your entire life by tomorrow morning. You only need to focus on the very next, seemingly insignificant decision you are about to make today. Will you read instead of complaining? Will you save instead of spending? You do not become a different person because you wish to. You become different because you repeatedly choose actions that gradually transform the way you think and the person you become. The future you want will never arrive because circumstances align in your favor. It will arrive because you built the foundation to thrive despite them.